Good evening, I am Nisha Charles and I am your presenter for today. Thank you for joining us for SAT TV News. Among the major developments, Raymond Lawrence inducted into Caribbean Hall of Fame. First down payment made on 6 new 50-seater aircraft for Liat. Yasser Arafat remains exhumed in murder inquiry. And in sports, the Jubilant FC continues their poor run of form in the 2012-2013 Dominica Football Association Premier Division competition. Details of these and other stories after the break. Thank you for staying with us. Now for the details of the news. In observing 16 days of activism as part of a campaign against gender violence, the Ministry of Social Services, Community Development and Gender Affairs, in collaboration with the Bureau of Gender Affairs, held a Youth Ambassadors Forum. The forum was hosted under the theme, The Role of Youth in Curbing Domestic Violence and Violence Against Women and Girls. Speaking at the forum, Magistrate Gloria Augustus advised the young people present at the forum that it is important not to keep domestic or any form of violence a secret, whether they are directly or indirectly affected.
So be a peacemaker. Try and see, you know your parents, you know your people much better than anybody else. And sometimes you might know the right time when to talk to them or the right thing to say to them, or maybe even contact some aunt or some other person you know that can speak to the people in terms of what is happening in the home. It doesn't make sense to pretend nothing is happening and to cover it up, because if it continues to get worse, it can lead to things that everybody will know about. The whole population, it will make headlines. So if you know that there's a problem and maybe you feel you cannot, or you've tried and it didn't work, you can probably speak to some other relative you know that has influence, or your mother or father, whoever it is, will listen to.
Magistrate Baptist pointed out that the law makes provision for abused children's cases to be brought to the court by a nurse, a teacher, or a police officer. She said in some cases children can be removed from homes from which they are being abused, all in the effort of providing them with a safe environment. When we all speak out against abuse, we are helping in the fight against all forms of violence, which is the attitude that is needed in society, as our actions may prevent it from happening again.
A lot of people have anger problems. Before you talk to them, they're ready to burst. I really trying to understand sometimes why that happens. The slightest thing is something big. So maybe you as an individual, to curb domestic violence, you have to learn to deal with your issues and learn to deal with anger. And when you grow up, it wouldn't follow you, so that you are the one doing that in your home. If you can deal with it from now and deal with your issues from now, then you will not become an abuser. If you see abuse in your home and you do something about it, you speak about it, you seek counseling, therapy or something, then maybe you too will not become an abuser later. Because what they say sometimes is that people who see abuse, sort of like the studies have shown that some of them become abusers, right? Some might decide that will never happen to me, I'll never do that. Because there are a lot of people who, they take the hurt while it's happening within the home. And some people can deal with it differently. Some are affected their school, their life later, and so on. Others get strong and say, that will never happen to me, I will never do that. Or they try and fight for that not to happen to other people.
Magistrate Baptist highlighted that a lot of times in abuse, the aggressor inflicts pain on his or her victims, and they cry and ask for forgiveness. But the next day or soon after, they go back and do the same thing, which is not right. She says these people need all the help they can get, and at some point the victim needs to realize they need to get out of the situation. Magistrate Baptist stated in cases where children are involved, the parents can try to work things out for the best interest of the children during abuse relationships. However, there are times when enough is enough and the victim has to take a stand. She says in cases where people may feel they do not know how to deal with abusive relationships, they must seek help and/or counseling to find solutions. And in more news, it was a tragic moment for the Prince family, Mr. Alvin Alexander and Patricia Magloire, as they lost 2 houses due to a fire in Wesley on Saturday the 24th, leaving a family of 5 homeless. Mr. Alexander says that the fire began at the house of his cousin, Patricia Magloire, and due to the slow response of the fire officers, as well as explosive items in the home, it then spread to the building which belongs to his deceased grandparents.
at Patricia's home, she and her family of 2 children, 2 grandchildren, a family of 5, and at the Prince household where there was a family of 7, which included my uncle and his girlfriend, Brenda Lee, and her children and his children as well, resided in property number 2. Though the property was unoccupied at the time, being that the family was out, both properties were basically unoccupied, and the fire consumed everything basically in both properties, and so the children in both families who would have had books and clothing items and everything at the home.
He says although they lost everything, he is grateful that the fire occurred when the family was out.
There was no one really home at that point when it happened, because we do have a disabled member of the family who's been taken care of elsewhere outside of the Wesley community, who normally would have resided there. And we still want to give God thanks that it did not happen in any other way. However, we continue to appeal for public support for persons who would be interested in giving something onto the cause, reminding them that it's 2 families that have been affected by this incident. And of course, we have heard from the Minister of Community Development, Social Services, that's the Honorable Gloria Sherringford, who's also the Member of Parliament from the area, that there is some mobilization work taking place in respect to trying to get the reconstruction of the homes going.
Mr. Alexander said he has not received an official report from the fire department. However, Ms. McGlow has an overall estimate of the renovation costs.
What has happened is I got a guy to do the estimation for me yesterday on the ground, but he said he would have to go home and put it together last night, and I haven't seen what it is. But I guess the building maybe was about $10,000, yes? Mm-hmm. And things that was inside of the house, maybe it was about the same amount. Because it had soap, beds, mattresses, and different things, machine and things like that.
Ms. McGraw says she is grateful for the support that she has received so far, and it's going to be extremely difficult for her.
The parliamentary representative, she spoke to me, she said she was trying to get things in place too. They came across and took some information. And the public is trying their best, because when things do happen in that way, people do come with whatever, and whatever they do for me, I do accept it and will be grateful, whatever it is.
The family says any form of contribution will be accepted, and they can contact Mr. Alexander at 276-1386. The Social Welfare Division has a growing concern for our children in Dominica. Over the years, child abuse and child neglect has been on the rise. Acting coordinator of the Child Abuse Prevention Unit, Ms. Gemma Azil, says the Welfare Division are making it their business to stand up for the rights of children.
We continue to have reported cases of concerns where, especially in the area of child sexual abuse, it continues to be the most reported form of abuse. We see a growing number of incest cases, and as we know, incest is where you have sexual relations between the biological family and the child. So it could be a brother, it could be a father, and it continues to be of great concern, because when fathers are sexually abusing their children, this is something that everybody needs to take serious.
There are also cases of physical and emotional abuse. Children come to school, and because of the emotional abuse from their homes, they do not want to return home. Ms. Azil says child neglect is growing as well, and this needs to be looked at closely.
Neglect is also a concern, and neglect is basically where you find that the caregivers, the parents, the guardians, you do not provide for your children adequately. You also do not give them the proper supervision that they need. And we always ask our parents, to be vigilant with your children. You are there to supervise your children. Leaving them unattended for extended periods and or not paying close attention to them can cause harm, because you never know what could happen. You can have neglect moving into another form of abuse.
A child being neglected can lead to other forms of abuse, be it physical or sexual. Mr. Dill advises parents to ensure that they know where their children are constantly and make sure that they are properly supervised.
Make sure you know what they are doing, who that they are with, Make sure you know that if you leave to go somewhere and get something and you say you're just leaving them for 5 seconds, make sure that that 5 seconds doesn't turn into 2 hours, 3 hours, half a day, and nobody knows where you are and your children are left by themselves. Make sure you know what you have in your home so that when you turn your back, you know you do not leave certain things exposed so that it can hurt your children. You do not leave knives lying around, scissors, those things. Because leaving that around, you find children, they experiment a lot.
The Welfare Division has engaged in a number of drives throughout the island to sensitize the public on the incidences of child abuse and neglect, and is urging the public to take heed in this regard. Report all cases of abuse or neglect so that the matter can be dealt with immediately. And Dominica's Chief Cultural Officer, Mr. Raymond Lawrence, has been inducted into the Caribbean Hall of Fame for Arts, Sports and Culture. The award ceremony took place on Friday, November 23rd at the Pegasus Hotel in Jamaica, but Mr. Lawrence was unable to attend. In an interview with SAT TV, Mr. Lawrence says he is very honored and humbled to have been selected to be placed in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, the thing is, I've been in culture a very long time. For instance, my group is 41 years this year, the Waitukupuli, but since I was a boy, I was involved, I would say, in arts and culture, you know, performing, singing, acting, and so on. And then I guess I started very young, because when Waitukubuli started, I was 17, I was still going to school. So I started very young. Even before that, I was acting.
Right after high school, Mr. Lawrence began in broadcasting, but noticed that he had a passion for arts and culture as well. He says it was a woman named Jean Small in Jamaica who recommended him for the award.
It's working with a team, so of course I'm thankful to the staff of culture, although it's a small staff we have. When you compare to some of the other islands, they have larger staffs and they have larger resources, I would say, more than us. But again, thank God, I think we've been able to do what we had to do.
The Chief Cultural Officer has no intention of stepping down at any time, but says the focus now should be to train others to take over his role when that time comes.
As long as I have life and health, I will continue doing things even after, you know, you so-called retire. Because a lot of people still work and get themselves involved in all kinds of... In fact, I think that's a healthy thing, to continue making your contribution in whatever way you can, even after you've left your formal workplace. But you know, so, and then you get to do things maybe you didn't have all the time to do. Maybe you could write more, you could be involved in certain groups more, and so on. So
this year's function was the 11th annual Caribbean Hall of Fame Awards for Excellence and was staged in Jamaica as part of their 50th independence anniversary. Mr. Lawrence will receive a plaque for his induction in the Hall of Fame. And in more news, Mr. Francis Richards, president of the Dominica Arts and Crafts Producers Association, DACPA, says that Dominicans need to do more in supporting their own. He said with this, the arts and culture industry will continue on an upward push, which will be beneficial for the craft producers as well as Dominica. He pointed out that the craft producers also need to be innovative in the marketing of their items, not just to the local but regional and international market.
At the end of the day, it's our job as the craftspersons to produce. You have to know what your clients are, and if the locals are our clients, then we must produce stuff for them. If the tourists are our clients, we must produce stuff for them. So, for instance, right now with the travel industry, whether it's by sea or by air, we need to be very conscious of what's going down. So we need to probably be producing stuff that we can. If you want something yourself, buy it online. So you are in the Caribbean territory, you are looking at a lovely Lauma basket made by the Carinago people. But it's big, it's bulky, but you want it. Guess what? We need to get in this time of 2012 to buy it online. So we can send you a basket online the same way you would have bought an item from the States or wherever online.
Mr. Richards said it is our job to get locals and tourists alike interested in our products, and as such, we need to be in tune with technology and what is going on around us. He also pointed out that Dominica has the ability to produce local, authentic Dominican craft, whatever type it may be, and we have all of the raw materials readily at our disposal.
And we must never forget that we have local Dominican tourists as well. So our items must be you can have items that are only for show, And for instance, something like this has two features. For show, and it's a bowl. Right? So we have to be thinking of what can we do to capture that kind of market. And we have to look at what's happening on the international scene, the regional scene, so we can blend in and become profitable.
He says they are very conscious in improving their quality, but is appealing to the stakeholders to give a helping hand, as diasporans have indicated a potential of thousands of dollars to be made on the international markets. The DACPA president pointed out that being on the production end needs some grant funding to produce more one-of-a-kind craft items, while mass production to supply the outside markets. With this, he said, Dominica will be reeling in a lot of foreign income, which will circulate throughout the country. However, he said without the financial help that is needed, the industry will continue to struggle. Mr. Richards pointed out that DACPA is also very concerned of the issue of Dominicans purchasing Chinese-made craft items and then engraving Dominica on them to pass them off as a Dominican craft, which is wrong. He said this is taken away from the income of the hard-working local producers and it needs to stop.
Well, that is something that I'm sure the authorities at the highest level must be concerned about. We are extremely concerned about it. Actually, by law, it is illegal to do. It's on our books. You can't take an item that is made elsewhere and say it is made in Dominica when Dominica style. It's illegal. But having said that, it's for us as producers to be able to produce at a level and compete on a level playing field. Give us the tools, give us the wherewithal, hold our hands, give us the grant funding, and whether you come from wherever you are in Mars, we can produce because we have the wherewithal. Otherwise, we will continue to be crying about something we can't do anything about because we have no tools to deal with it. Whether it's tools, training, exposure, marketing, promotion.
Mr. Richards stated as president of DACPA, his vision for the industry 5 years from now is to ensure that we are on an equal level and have the ability to compete with any supplier on the market. He said more of the local craft persons should join DACPA with the right persons and the right resources and fundings. Therefore, the sky is the limit as to how far this industry can go. Persons wishing to join in the association or provide funding can call Mr. Richards at 275-3505. And the Dominica Cooperation Movement, in collaboration with Dominica Calypso Association, presents Cooperative Calypso Competition carried for Saturday, December 1st. Some of the participants include Lord Caressa, Checo, Benno, Sai, and Leona. Guest performances from King Dice, Sugar Fire Band, Pegush Drummers, Asha Thomas, and Renick Tuse are expected.
The United Nations declared the year 2012 as the year for cooperatives, a time when cooperators should reflect as to where they are and probably where they should be going, what contributions have been made. In Dominica, we organized a national committee, and together with the staff of the Department of Cooperative, we organized a whole year of activities, and the Cooperative Calypso competition would be really bringing the curtains down on this year of activities.
Ms. Cannaville informed us that the idea came from one of their employees, Mr. Toussaint. She said he sang Calypso in the past and he decided to include a Calypso competition in their activities for the week.
And I felt that was very relevant, because what way can you really know what is being done or how well are you doing if not get the Calypsonians involved? Let them do the commentary on the Calypso movement so you know, well, yes, we're doing good or we're not doing too good, and this is where we have to improve. And also too, you have to develop new strategies for bringing the movement forward. Like anything else, you reach a peak. You know, everybody in Dominica is part of a cooperative. The financial societies have done well.
Ms. Cannaville added that they are trying to attract new people into the movement, seeing that oftentimes societies struggle to get volunteers. She believes that this event will definitely get the public's interest.
So if we do new things, get them more exciting, and all Dominicans love, all 90% of Dominicans just love Calypso. So if we do it through commentary, Calypso, then we can have the interest of new people, and the persons will get on board and do just what they have to do. And I can tell you, we have the big names in Calypso. It is a Calypso final come early at a very cheap price.
Ms. Carnival gave a specific reason as to why she believes people should attend this Calypso competition.
We want the people of Dominica to know that cooperatives have contributed to their lives, to their communities, and to Dominica economy on a whole, and why not? It's one of a lifetime. This is a historic event, the first ever of its kind, so we're asking persons to come and support the movement.
The show will take place at Harlem Plaza in Newtown, and the Calypsonians will be backed up by the Swinging Stars Band. Tickets can be purchased at Jay's Bookstore, Bullseye Pharmacy, and also at the Cooperative Division. Tickets cost $25, $30 at the gate, and $50 for VIP. This has been the local segment of the news. Coming up next, regional highlights.